Playing through the main game of Fallout New Vegas with only using VATS was fun. Now I'm putting this build to the test against the rest of the DLCs in New Vegas. The rules for this challenge are simple. First, I can only deal damage to enemies with only using VATS. Secondly, I must beat all 4 DLCs and their equivalent final boss without speech checks. Additionally, I must go into each DLC with no outside equipment. Everything I find inside the DLC is fair game. Finally, no companions unless absolutely necessary. The difficulty is set on very hard with survival mode enabled. Up to bat first is Dead Money. Leaving Caesar's tent to go take a personal vacation at the Sierra Madre, fast traveling outside of Novak, I prevent on-site accidents by killing smokers. I then remember that the NCR has declared me a terrorist and had to go take out the NCR station at the ORP at the outskirts of Nelson. Got brought before Dead Sea to sign his personal machete, and then entered the bunker to begin Dead Money. Waking up after inhaling that good kush, gimped with an explosive collar, Santa Claus appears to me on the television and says that we need to gather his little helpers to save Christmas. First up the bat to go fetch is the Jolly Blue Giant dog at the police station. Penny pinching all the Sierra Madre casino chips I could on the way there, as this is the DLC's currency. The ghost people on the normal difficulty are already bullet sponges. On very hard, it takes about dumping a full clip with landing a few good crits to take them down. The hollow rifle does good work, however, I'm not spec'd out into energy weapons yet, so for the most part, I'll be running with the police pistol. Inside of the station, we find some goodies like the Browning automatic rifle, with some armor as well. I noticed that also my rebreather found its way into the DLC. I believe because it's a quest item, I cannot get rid of it. Turning off all the radios and getting the Schizo's tape, we convince Dog to come out of the closet and head to the fountain of rendezvous there. If I can dismiss the companions and fight alone, I will do so. However, at certain parts of the DLC, I am forced to bring along companions to progress the storyline. So to remedy this, I will do my best to kill enemies off before my companions can finish them off, as they seem not to be able to do much damage to them. Next up is Christine inside of the clinic. Along the way there, I am now introduced to the destroyable radios that will set off my collar if they are not dealt with. Unfortunately, they cannot be targeted in VATS. However, checking my Pip-Boy, they aren't classified as enemies, so I'm going to allow destroying them out of combat for this challenge. Christine is being operated on the surgery wing inside of the clinic. However, before we can get down there, I shut down the power to the building and yank her out. She's a mute right now, so I skip past her dialogue and next go to retrieve Dean at the villa. Within the villa, there are no shortages of traps set by his truly and the ghost people. I got sent to the moon while turning a corner and finally recruited Dean to go to the fountain. I then leveled up to 22 and picked the Grim Reaper Sprint that gives me 20 plus action points after each kill in VATS. Not as overpowered like in Fallout 3, but it helps with dealing with big groups of enemies. Shout out to this commentator for telling me about this in my first playthrough of the build. I do my best to incorporate your feedback that you leave me in the comments, so thank you. Returning, Santa needs me to bring the elves to their proper workstations so we can get to his workshop. Dean being the furthest away, I begin bringing him to where he needs to go. Killing some more of the ghost people together, Dean gets cold feet when we make it to his stage in which he needs to perform. He wants us to turn on the nightlight so that way he can connect the circuits without any worries. On the way back, I picked up a caravan shotgun next to one of Dean's stashes as I've been accumulating a bunch of 20 gauge rounds. Next up is Christine, and it's bring your mute ball daughter to work day at the chlorine gas factory. Inside of the factory itself, it's everyone's favorite part about Dead Money. Comes in the copious amounts of traps laid everywhere. Once Christine and I have made it through, I redirected the controls to the upper floor so she doesn't have claustrophobia fits downstairs. Finally, it's the Blue Jolly Giant's turn. Killing more of the ghost people, now armed with makeshift IEDs, we make it to the switching station. Dog unfortunately has the IQ of a Simo monkey and cannot understand the sequence to throw the switches, even though he has done this before according to him, and secondly, after I read the diagram, I am too stupid to teach him, without switching to God to threaten him to do the job. Now it is my turn to pitch in my part. I need to get to the bell tower to trigger the gala event and open the casino. Dealing with another horde of the ghost people, in which most of them have a hard time moving around corners, giving me enough time to recharge my action points. Reaching the top of the tower, I set off the fireworks, and fighting with more of the Disney adults outside, I level up to 24 and pick the Math Raft perk for reducing all of my action points by 10%. Afterwards, I began returning to the entrance of the casino, only to be given another round of Santa's Kush and knocked out. Waking up and seeing all my friends gone, Santa tells me we need to spend his paycheck on investing at blackjack and needs the power turned on. Destroying more of the casino's audio infrastructure and avoiding the Blue Man Group, I flip the switch and take a tactical gambling break because we're always on that grind. Dog is in the kitchen threatening to burn down the casino because the voices in his head told him to do so. Instead, I instructed him to give himself a calming neck massage by turning his head 180 degrees. I forgot in order to leave the kitchen, I needed to turn off the gas leak, and then promptly died as well. In the second attempt, Dog gets the same treatment as before, and this time I am able to leave the kitchen and return to the lobby. The ghost people have entered the building, and I have to dispatch of all of them by making my way towards the theater. Dean is hogging up all the spotlight and being sassy at the same time. So, to avoid the few holograms and watching his show, I humble him with a few .357 Magnum rounds to his head before stealing his clothes. Now all that's left is Christine in the hotel, who could have been assisting me the entire time. Got stuck in the closet waiting for Mariah Keys' ghost to leave before linking up with Christine. She can't open the door without the code, which is all the way down at the front desk at the hotel. So, dealing with more of the ghost people on the way down, I retrieve the code and cap Christine in the back of the head for making me do all the heavy lifting. Downstairs in the basement of the vault are more deadly holograms that get me 1 or 2 times. Finally making it to the vault, I convince Father Elijah to meet me face to face. However, during Elijah's pimp walk to the vault computer, I didn't know that he was completely invincible and had to reload to the last save. On the second attempt, I killed Elijah, but got lost trying to find the exit and got a new haircut from the explosive collar that went off. Third time is the try, killed Elijah, escaped through the maze of the basement, and made it outside to the Coliseum air. Down 1, 3 to go. Back at the bunker with my new technophobia, it's time to get away from the bright lights of New Vegas and go on a little camping trip. Heading north from New Vegas, I end up with the Happy Trails Caravan Company to set east to the great state of Utah. Then we were promptly greeted by the locals with their state's signature firearms being the .45 caliber pistol and submachine guns. I returned the pleasure back to the locals before running into a guy who looks like he worked at a Hot Topic. I told the weirdo that I didn't need a guide and then proceeded to get my shit pushed in by the local wildlife and savage tribes. My main reason for wandering around like a moron was to get the survivalist rifle, which is one of my personal favorites in this DLC, without looking up where it is. After 45 minutes of wandering around, I found it, and began heading back towards the camp. Now back on the beaten path, Joshua's tasked us with getting the needed supplies for Daniel to evacuate everyone from Zion Canyon. While at the cave, I picked up a .45 pistol with an HD slide to help me deal with any wildlife that decides to get too close to me. Fast traveling back to the crashed bus site, then to the general store and then the ranger station to check off the needed tasks. Arriving outside of the Soros' camp, I speak to Daniel about the Grand Staircase map and then get tasked in finding it. The Bear Claw MILF Waking Cloud offers to come with us, but I tell her she has bigger things to worry about, like her dead husband, and then move on. On the way out, I get another sermon from Graham before arriving at Mother's Cave. Got jumped by a pack of bears twice, and then on the third attempt, made it into the cave and got the map, leaving with only a broken leg. Here I thought dead money was going to be the troubled child of this playthrough. Upon leaving the cave, I leveled up to 28 and picked the jury rigging perk. With how I need to scavenge everything within the DLCs, it would be nice not having to worry about my armor and weapon durability. I then headed north to go clear out the White Lakes camp. Dealt with a sapper, which is weird because they're pretty much homed in Missouri, not in Utah. Then I went southwest to deal with the local bear population until I got sandwiched between a group of cazadors and 2 tribals armed with brush guns. My luck keeps getting better and better. Before long, it's time to evacuate the tribals into the vast unknown by siding with Daniel. Joshua is not too pleased about this, nor will he leave my side unlike the 2 other followers in this DLC, so he's stuck with me for better or for worse. We start by freeing the captives up by the ranger station Osprey, and then killing the White Lakes there, followed by killing more tribals along the way, rendezvousing with Dancy Flame while taking out the White Lakes guarding the Burning Mounds. Finally killing the remainder of tribals guarding the bridge to the tunnel leaving Zion, I leveled up to 30 and picked the sniper perk to be able to hit the head 25% more of the time when using VATS. Confronted by salt upon wounds, I tell him that these tribals are not a worthy offering to Caesar, and then he runs off. I did this hopefully to get Joshua upset at me for stealing his revenge, but he just stood there. I then unloaded 24 rounds of 12.5mm ammo into his skull, but at no point did he try attacking me. Reloading, I let the General Gobbledygook flee and helped the remaining tribals flee Zion. Upon realizing that Joshua Graham doesn't respawn after the completion of Honest Hearts, I reloaded all the way back to my decision to help Daniel and the other tribals escape Zion and began killing them all. This allows Joshua to immediately be hostile towards me, so popping a stealth boy and some shots at him, he goes down. I take all of his belongings off of him and leave Zion. Leveling up again to 30, picking the sniper perk once more, I try presenting my victory to Caesar, but he seems too focused on the upcoming battle for Hoover Dam, so I toss Joshua's clothing into the fire. Tired that my skills go unrecognized in the Legion, I stop for a midnight showing at a drive-in movie theater, and instead get abducted into the Big Empty. Waking up inside the sink, I talk to the computers in regards to why they've taken my organs to sell for Fent. Before getting rudely interrupted by another TV that he has all my organs now, I pass a couple of speech texts before my game crashes while trying to re-enter the sink balcony. Great start. Outside, I want to get my grubby little hands on any and all of Elijah's jury-rigged energy weapons to give myself a fair shot. Picking up a hunting shotgun off a lobotomite helped me out greatly with dealing with the waves of the surgery projects. I died a couple of times heading northeast to one of Elijah's camps past the Robco factory. The sonic emitter in its base form completely shuts down fights in a 1v1, as crits stun them into complete submission, allowing me to recharge my action points. Passing the factory, I picked up a tape from Muggy along the way. Arriving at the camp, I took everything that wasn't nailed down, got Elijah's jury-rigged Tesla cannon before getting sandwiched once more. Waiting out the hostile enemies until I could fast travel back to the sink, I sold all the unnecessary goodies, buying some combat armor to protect me, and then my game crashed trying to leave the front door of the sink. Fantastic. Reloading again, I began heading to the X8 facility to get the ball rolling on the main quest. Killing some Night Stalkers and some more lobotomites along the way, I was then diddled by a pack of cyber police dogs before deciding to say fuck it and ran inside. Meanwhile, within the X8 facility, fare no better against the Mr. Handy robots. I cheesed them out with the use of the sonic emitter. Then I pissed in God's eye by creating life that was taken away from me too soon. Rest that soul if that thing had one. Then I began the test through the fake high school while the television screens ramble on about their sad high school life, while putting on my best ATF cosplay by killing multiple dogs. After completing the test, I leveled up to 32 and picked the concentrated fire perk, allowing for every other attack in VATS to gain more accuracy the more I shoot. It's back to the lab again. I create more abominations, like this weird dog, before I retrieve Gabriel's bark. I can barely do damage to the robotic scorpions and dodge their lasers running out of the X8 facility. I do the same technique running past the security up to the X2 tower and retrieve the big antenna on top of the structure. 2 down, 1 to go. I next head to the X13 labs and began building the stealth suit. Inside of the facility, I run through it a couple of times for some more experience and to upgrade the suit itself. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I did not get the force field upgrade for the sonic emitter, so it's a field trip back to the X8 facility again, and my game crashed once more. Reloading from my last save, the scorpions that I ditched are still there in the X8 facility, but the dog from before that I created decides to help me out, but she died in the process. I ran through the schoolhouse once more with the upgrade to disable the force fields. In the process, I leveled up to 34 and picked the laser commander perk for another 15% crit chance whenever I use laser weapons. Outside, after getting mauled by a couple more dogs, I retrieved the Atomic Valence Tri-Radio Oscillator? Try saying that 3 times fast. This basically heals me over time. The only downside of this version of the Halo is that it makes me go bald. Right next to the Boomtown is a hazmat testing grounds, and inside there is a hazmat suit right for the taking. Boasting an 11 damage threshold and a whopping 85 poison resistance, It is the best light armor that I'm going to find within this DLC. Running along the pipes like a pesky plumber, to the north on top of one of the radio shacks, I found an upgraded weapon that will become even better than the jury-rigged Tesla cannon, that being one of Elijah's lasers. Dealt with some more lobotomites, and then headed west towards the prison camp, where they kept those filthy Canadians during the war. I found another lair while in one of the watchtowers. While this can't be repaired with the jury-rigging perk, I will keep this, as only other layers can repair the other one, so this will serve as a good backup. Meanwhile outside, I died to more of the plants found back in Vault 22 in the Mojave. I robbed the scientists' houses back in the indoor village, stealing their pet's dog bowl, and decided to get a ball rolling on the main quest in getting my organs back. Returning to the sink, I broke into more of their rooms and ransacked more of their personal belongings before venturing off into the Forbidden Zone. Inside of the main chamber, I make a beeline to the computer terminal to shut off the giant robo-scorpion. Nah, JK, just kidding. I instead activated the drones to take the heat off of me before turning my attention to another computer terminal to turn on the turrets. I swapped to the Tesla cannon to lay down some shots on the giant scorpion while the turrets distracted the foe while my action points recharged. The fight itself only took about 2 minutes before I defeated the giant robo-scorpion and watched the million of pre-war tax dollars go up in smoke. Deeper into the Forbidden Zone, I meet Grandpa, who was screaming over the phone the entire DLC. He gave me some of his prescription, so I decided to let him live. I then emptied out his medicine cabinet before convincing my brain to rejoin me for the slaughter back in the sink. Eagerly returning back to the big empty, I grabbed a couple grenades from my nightstand like any American has and began lobbing them at the dead scientists. They didn't do much, which had me really worried, but at the same time they weren't doing very much damage to me either. Whipping out the Tesla cannon once more and one-shotting all the jarheads completed the DLC and returned me back to the wasteland. Before using this funky little laser gun, I leveled up to 36 and picked the Meltdown perk. If I get a kill with any energy weapons, it causes a big explosion, dealing damage to nearby enemies too if they're caught in the blast radius. I teleport back to the drive-in movie theater, demand a refund before getting denied, and then take my rage upon the local coyote population before heading into the Lonesome Road, the final DLC for New Vegas. Greeted by that orange-colored sky and not a single item to my name, I began picking up everything that isn't nailed down. Inside, I turned on this little flying radio who opened up the commissionaries on the wall. I scavenged more and found one of the upgrades for that flying little toaster and headed up to the next level. On the second level, I fixed up a turret with this welder that I found and dispatched the sentry bot, retrieving some of the late general's goodies from his office and then left the bunker. Outside, the flying ham radio set tells me everything around me and the way that it is my fault. Ignoring his rude words, I enter the remains of Hopeville and encounter for the first time the Scourge. Like the tribals and lobotomites that I fought before, unless I get the drop on them, they will become a big brolic black dude named McGrease, and then proceed to skullfuck me. I was able to pick off one of them with the tri-beam laser rifle, which made my life a whole lot easier. Inside of the HQ building, I found another one of the upgrades for the iPod Nano after clearing out the Markman, and got him to repair my laser rifle. Continuing outside, we go where the magic marker in my head tells me to go. I get scared by a man with a semi-automatic flare gun and pick up a detonator. Now, the game wants you to naturally use the detonator to destroy the nuclear warheads laying around the ambush. However, that's some liberal propaganda. I cannot target them in VATS, so if I need to blow up any of the warheads for the sake of this challenge, I'll first clear out the area before destroying them. After the ambush, I clear out the 2 barracks inside Hopeville, being the men's barrack and destroying the nuclear warhead, surviving the ambush inside of there too in the female barracks. One of them had a 10mm mounted machine gun on them, in which I didn't think could spawn until you killed one of the unique named Markmen. Cool. Scavenging the town some more, killing off any of the Markmen, and detonating some more warheads, I come across one of Ulysses' camps and rested until morning before pushing on. I love the smell of glue and nuclear fallout in the morning, so after detonating another warhead, I run into one of the 4 unique named marked men, being Blister, who is armed with a flamethrower. Entering the tunnel, we are first introduced to the tunnelers. Fun fact about the tunnelers, especially the hulking variants, they can knock you down even while you're in VATS, in combat, which means you're dead until they wander off or knock you into an area in which you can reach.
The other thing about the tunnelers, which I bet you didn't know, is that they will retreat if they've taken too much damage into their tunnels. What isn't cool about them is that they will immediately respawn with full health to bend you over and run through you dry. So naturally now, the strategy is to get somewhere high while they rush the little jukebox, killing the weakest one in the group, and then watch the fireworks. Exiting the tunnel, Ulysses berates me with some more, hinting at the facts that the tunnelers will overwhelm the Mojave one day. But back at the mission at hand, I fight another one of the unique name marksmen with that 10mm mounted machine gun, accidentally saved on top of one of the satchel charges, so that was fun, found a new helmet to protect my absent brain, and began methodically clearing out the overpass by crippling all the Deathclaws in the legs, so that way that allows my AP to recharge. More ambushes by the tunnelers and Deathclaws, I decided to launch a nuke because I was bored, and leveled up to 38 and decided to raise my endurance to 6 for another perk later. We now have to take the fun slide down to the base of the silo, with some more tunnelers deciding to hop on for the fun ride down with the gondola. Inside of the bunker, I find another upgrade for the flying tape recorder. Outside, Ulysses says we are the ones who brought the destruction of Hopeville through bringing the detonator unknowingly to the NCR station, setting off the missiles below the silos. Sounds to me Ulysses should be more upset towards the NCR than me, but kids will be kids. Clearing past more nukes, I reach what we'd call Bendover Cave because that's what you primarily will be doing there. I clear out more of the tunnels before working my way past the Queen, before reaching the top of the apartment structure. Exiting outside, Ulysses hijacks Eddie from me by saying some nerd shit and flies off to his goon cave, dumping all the crap I gave him along the way. Well, it's time to go teach him a lesson. It's more of the same thing to his temple, kneecapping Deathclaws and missing an absurd amount of shots in VATS until I run into a new problem. Some of the markmen use stealth boys. That means I can't target them in VATS. The good news is that it's not infinite, so all I need to do is train them around until it wears off, then blow their brains out. Finally reaching the temple, I level up to 40 and pick the atomic perk. While being actively irradiated, I get more movement speed and AP points to recharge faster, which will be great for the last 2 tasks that I had planned for after dealing with Ulysses. Inside, I dispatch of the security and take one good last look at the Samsung fridge before activating the door to the main silo arena and leaving him to his fate. All of that was to gain the Lonesome Road perk. That gives me 10% more accuracy in VATS and 10% more damage when traveling with no companions. Finally confronting Ulysses, I tell him that his villain arc sucks, and then he proceeds to mop the floor with me. The problem is that he throws a grenade immediately, which drains my combat skill points, which in turn limits how much I can damage him in a single turn of VATS. Secondly, his iBots will heal and repair his gear constantly unless disabled. On the second attempt, I disabled the traps guarding his computer consoles, told him that his J's were fake, and made a beeline out of the grenade's range before turning both of his iBots on him. I then finished them off with a 50 BMG to the head. How's that bare bull bullshit for ya? Anyways, the place is then filled by the marked men, and the iBots help me out for a bit, before turning on me, myself, and I. I then complete Ulysses' mission by sending a nuke towards the I-15, crippling the NCR, and then ending the DLC. But I'm not done yet. I still have 3 things to do before I can call this build and this playthrough a completion. So after watching the fireworks and getting my big reward being the Courier's Duster, this is the only piece of gear in Fallout New Vegas that gives you a plus 15 AP points to your overall AP bar total. Now I have 2 areas in which I need to clear out before retaking the dam once more. Returning back to the Divide, I kill the remaining survivors of the Courier's Mile. The atomic perk really kicks this build into maximum overdrive by recharging my action points really quickly, kneecapping all the Deathclaws first, then training around the markmen until my action points recharge. Now ground 0 is ground 1, as I am the rightful sole survivor of these ruins. Expanding my domain back to the Mojave, at the outpost, the remaining soldiers there don't stand a chance. However, the unlucky few within the I-15 are a little bit more tougher, especially the ones in power armor.
Colonel Royez was even more lethal than Ulysses, given he's packing a plasma caster and power armor to boot. He can almost heal faster than I can kill him, so getting up close and personal while praying his shots miss me is all I can do, and luckily enough, it works. Afterwards, I loot the joint for whatever goobies that weren't incinerated in the nuclear explosion, then gather some equipment from the previous DLCs that I wanted to take to me to fight in the Hoover Dam battle. It is time to retake the dam a second time for the Legion. Now armed with overclocked laser weapons, I get the Meltdown perk to activate a couple of times on the NCR soldiers in close proximity of each other. Confronting General Lee Oliver a second time, I thought that the sonic emitter would deactivate his force fields that he puts up. Guess not. The landmines and the NCR Rangers armed with their anti-material rifles get me once or twice, before making it to the offices and showing Lee Oliver that he is not the main character by lasering him in the head while his dumbass heavy troops just stand there. In fact, most of the troops with power armors just fled to different sections of the office building and just stared into corners. Very weird. With New Vegas under the tyranny of Roman wannabes, we have now beaten all the DLCs in Fallout New Vegas, officially completing this run. Overall, VATS is a pretty powerful tool in Fallout. However, solely using it has a lot of issues, like those enemies that use stealth boys. In hindsight, I could have triggered the atomic perk to aid in recharging my action points by eating irradiated food. So if you want to try that out for yourself, keep that in mind. So, if you enjoyed this playthrough and want to see me do something that you want me to do in the future, please let me know in the comments. Other than that, I appreciate you all waiting for me to get situated. This was my first big move by myself to a different state before, and now that I'm all ready to continue to upload in a 2-week schedule every Sunday like before. So, I hope you all look forward to the next upload and that you remember to smile.
This slaughter pleases me. No act is more sacred than